Join us for this week's Beer Diplomacy with our guests Sarah Evans, Oz Sultan, L.Martin Johnson Pratt, as we discuss scamming Republicans, Obama's balls, slutty prom dresses, and a whole bunch of other exciting topics. Come check us out at beerdiplomacytv.com.
You turned on the news, you'd see that those same folks who were hollering about it before it passed, they're still hollering about how the world will end because we passed this bill. This is not an exaggeration. All right? John Boehner called the passage of this bill. We don't need to boo. I just want to give the facts. Called this passage of this bill Armageddon. You had others who said this is the end of freedom as we know it. So after I signed the bill, I looked around. I looked up at the sky to see if asteroids were coming. I looked at the ground to see if cracks had opened up in the earth.
He's a decent leader.
You know what? It turned out it was a pretty nice day.
All right, so once again, President Obama standing up for what he did, what he believes in, giving a little bit of business to the Republican Party. Sarah, we'll toss to you. Giving you an opportunity to really express your opinions here on where you fall on healthcare, on healthcare in general, where you fall on how the president is handling it. Just have some fun with it. Let us know what you think, and go.
Well, let me tell you that my background is actually in healthcare. I worked for the largest healthcare system in Illinois for about 5 years in communications and government relations, and it is something that is very important to me that people all have access to healthcare, and they all have access to some type of coverage of insurance. And I've seen firsthand what can happen when people just don't have access. So for me, it's not just a political issue, but it's truly a human issue. And that's where I tend to stand on most things is how does this help or hurt people? And this is something that I just want to see healthcare coverage, and I want to see people have access to healthcare. So that's my roundabout way of answering without getting too political.
Okay, so do you think it helps people, though?
You know what? I'm not. I don't necessarily feel comfortable commenting, but that's my view, just my personal view. Okay,
very well. Gentlemen, I guess I'll throw it to you, L.Mart. Do you think that this bill helps people? Short term, long term, and how do you feel about the president stepping up like that?
Making a joke is not to me. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. I said making a joke is not really stepping up to the plate. Just the mere fact this week that he's willing to authorize offshore drilling for oil when Bush said no, to try to appease us. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that he does recently is kind of insulting, in the kind. I'm going to give you guys a olive leaf, and hopefully you come on board. The Republicans that are elected are not all of them, but a lot are pretty smart and can see through what he wants to do. Instead of him I would love for him to give us a real fight. But that's not talking tough, or I don't even really think I was talking tough. I was making a joke, making light of something, being sarcastic, being snarky, and it's a shame that I would love for him to stick with who he should be or who he was, and take the high road. Be serious about this. This is people's lives we're talking about. These are how many people have died because how many people are not on health care, and so did this bill do anything? I think it ceremonially did something, but I don't expect a lot to happen from it. But I could be totally wrong, and it 20 years from now we can look at this as a changing point in what we have as healthcare right now. But I don't feel that it's done enough. I feel that I said the same thing last week or week before last was that we need a total, complete healthcare plan.
All right, gentlemen, Oz and Ez, what do you guys think, man? What do you guys think about the speech in general? Do you like the sarcasm? Do you think that he was actually taking an aggressive tone or just messing around with it? And also, how do you feel about us having this new healthcare bill now that it's in effect, and by June we should see some immediate changes?
Well, I'll say two things. On the healthcare bill, you're not going to see immediate changes. What you may see some policy changes, but the effective date is a couple of years from now. I personally think that this is kind of his FDR plan, and if you really kind of parallel him to FDR, what he is trying to do is some really big overtures towards getting some things in place. I mean, 30% of the estimates of expenditure in this country are healthcare. And the preponderance, I think, for a lot of Democrats was that it's estimated to go to something between 40% to 50% over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. So that kind of keeping in mind, and also having worked in the industry and worked with some biotech companies in terms of their funding before, and seeing the cost is just, if you're talking advanced cancer treatment, right now your proton-based cancer treatment, and there's only 20 centers in the country. Each one of these centers, the machines alone are $300 million. Now, these costs are coming down over the course of time, but the ability for us to actually save lives above and beyond what we were able to do 20 to 30 years ago has increased the cost incrementally for every single American. And, I hate to say it, but the expectations of Americans are such that they can get a lot of incurable cases treated in due course. So what does that yield for the government and for insurers? Insurers in California, for the most part, are going relatively bankrupt because there's more people dipping in than paying in. Nationally, we've got a crisis with these companies potentially going to bankruptcy inside of the next 5 to 7 years. The government stepping in, yes, is a nationalistic factor, but we've had this done in many cases over the course of the past 200 years, and it's been short term. I think I Love Black Women sort of speaks to the point of, where does this start? Where does this go? How does it finish? I would say the mainstay of the American populace, it's maybe not necessarily a bad thing, even stating this from a relatively conservative viewpoint. We're just not going to know until potentially this guy either gets out of office or gets reelected.
Right. So, Ez, how do they handle it in Israel?
Well, in Israel, we have a socialized medical insurance, which means that every single person gets insurance, and there are, the 4 big insurers or something like that, and you choose one, and then you pay extra payments to them in order to get extra things. But what really, goes in what I'm really thinking about right now is I read in Freakonomics or Super Freakonomics or one of those about that Americans actually spend more per capita on healthcare, meaning the American government spends more per capita on American healthcare than any other country or than most other countries in the world which have socialized healthcare.
Well, that's correct, but we also have a higher per capita income. And by the way, nice James Brown drop there.
Yeah. So now what I would say is that at least if the governments, even if you take the socialized thing, which means that you will still have individual insurance companies, but more the money coming from the center will actually be spent smarter, maybe, hopefully. It means that your 12 centers around the country that all have this $300 million machine will actually have smarter usage of this $300 million machine based on all the people around the country.
But I think your general preponderance is that there will be smarter use.
Hopefully, when there is one person in charge of it, being able, or one group in charge of it, in theory, I'm not going to say in practice, but in theory, you're going to have smarter use.
Right, but
what you guys don't see, though, or rather aren't touching upon, is how capitalism affects all this. I had read recently, and I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, how you can go, how drugs that come from America are cheaper in Canada than they are here. Significantly cheaper. So obviously it's something with the American capitalist system where you can go to Canada and buy the drugs from Canada cheaper.
You're dealing with patent issues.